All right, so here we are, ninth lit, and I'm about to pass out the book, and maybe ladies or guys, a couple of guys, how about, um, we all come over here, Davis and, Jude, if you would grab, some of them are like nicer than others, but just grab some, we need, what, 12 of them.
Grab 60.
You need to know, well, again, you don't, if you wanna put your name in it, in pencil or something like that, that'd be fine. Remember, this is a book that you're really not gonna be able to write in. So I'm gonna come around as you get the book, take a look at it, and I'm going to get that book number, so, here these numbers. You're number one. I see what you got. 39, is that what it says? Yeah, right, yeah. Here you got the N. X33. That's a great number. Makes it sound mysterious. All right, so that was easy enough. But please keep up with it. Now, the other thing I'm gonna give you are the questions. These are not exhaustive. In other words, there are a lot of other things in the book that you could probably learn. These are just a way for you to study it. It'd be a great way to take notes. So let me go ahead and Tuesday. I'm gonna go ahead and the clock is started to tick, so to speak, and we'll see how this goes. But this is something, maybe even today. I thought about that. If we usually go, we might read a little together, just to kind of get you into the book. But anyway, you know, it's going to be next Wednesday. Part one, I think it is. All right, so phase one is part one. Again, there are probably other things we could say. One of the things you're gonna have to, it always confuses me, I don't know why. I guess with foreign languages, but there are a number of terms that are from the language of this group of people that live in New Guinea, and they're not that many. There are 5 or 6, but they are extremely important. Like I noticed at the bottom, the Wayne is God, and then Tui Asana Man. That is extremely important. That's what really the whole first section is about, that concept. and then you got the two on. So just, there are a number of these words that relate to the story you're gonna have to keep up with. Part two is longer than part one. I don't think the questions, you notice I don't have that many more questions. So that's, the last chapter, I have a lot of questions. So there are 14 questions for the last chapter. A lot of things come together at the end. So just keep up with this. You need to answer the questions. I would like to give you credit for that. So I will also give you a quiz. I'll probably, the quiz counts more than the questions. So next Wednesday, just be prepared for some basic, by knowing this, some basic questions and about 10 questions on a quiz. And that's probably, again, the only time we'll do that, a reading quiz. So, and there's no vocabulary really, although there's some of that page I want you to define. We won't have a quiz on that. It might appear on that. There is a test on that. So in about 3 weeks, you will be finished with the book. So, Peace Child, you got the book, you got the questions, you got the schedule. And I think what we'll do in just a minute is we will read. My book looks a little different. It's the same book. We might read a little together just to see. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. I think we talked about this at the beginning of the year when you read a book this summer, that you got to choose, or that was from a list. And I think I admitted somewhere along that I often buy books because of the cover. You're not supposed to be able to tell a book by its cover. I like covers of books. You don't even know it. Well, they're making a comeback, but vinyl records, you know what I'm talking about? Those big 33 1/3 RPM records. Your parents probably, well, maybe not your parents, but your grandparents have them. That was a real genre of art. I know CDs, if they sell CDs anymore? Are CDs even a thing? Now you get everything off the internet. But vinyl records, the album covers are like an art form. And I have 100 of them. Actually, I probably have more than that from college and high school years. But the cover of books often grabs my attention. So mine's a little different. It's a little different edition with a little different page numbers. Do you know anything about this book? Anything? I mean, we've read it for years, so I would be surprised if you knew nothing about the book. Well, let me tell you a couple things about it. You will run into all these. I don't think you need to write it down. This is a true story, first of all. Don Richardson is the author. Let me get the date right, 1962, I was 10 years old. He and his wife went to the island of New Guinea. I think New Guinea is more than one island too, but does anybody have any idea where New Guinea is? Yeah.
Is it like an island off the coast of Africa?
No, it's wrong continent. It is a continent that it's off the coast of, yeah.
Isn't it near Australia?
Yeah, it's off the coast of Australia. And if you will turn, again, I need to get the page numbers right, but I'm pretty sure you have this. Doesn't even have a page number. So find this picture. There's several charts we can look at. If you'll turn to that. There is a picture of Australia, and above that is New Guinea. So Australia would be about the other side of the world. I don't think you could find a place more on the other side of the world than Australia and New Guinea. So they went there in 1962 and stayed there, and I don't know how many years, to be honest with you. The story takes place over maybe a couple years, but they went there to present the gospel to a group of people who had never heard the gospel. Paul says that in the New Testament, that he didn't want to take the gospel to people that already heard it, which was unnecessary. He didn't want to follow up on other people. He didn't want to reinforce what other people had already delivered. He wanted to go places like Rome, like Greece, He wanted to go places where the gospel had never been before, and that was sort of the motivation of these people. There's no way to objectively prove this, but this area had the reputation of and these tribes there, the Sawi tribes, of being maybe one of the most violent group of people on the face of the earth. So they have a little infant baby. They're in their 20s probably, and they're from Canada. And of course they go all the way on the other side of the world to a place that has no running water, except for the water running in the rivers. They take their little baby with them, and they take the gospel. And the bottom line is that they were successful, or that is, God was successful. This area became Christianized. People became Christians. No, not everybody did. So that's what this story is about, is they're getting the gospel into these people. Have you ever shared the gospel with anybody? You ever told anybody about Jesus? I get a couple of nods. I'd like to hear that story sometime, because we're kind of scared of that, aren't we? Christians are afraid to share the gospel, and the worst that could happen to you? People think you're crazy. People make fun of you. People ignore you. They're not going to kill you. We're not there yet. We may be there someday, that it's against the law to do that. But to go to a place like this to share the gospel, one of the most violent places on earth, to me that's, already I want to know more. I don't know if you do, but I want to know what happened. How violent are they? The first 5 chapters is the part you're going to read for next week. Frankly, it's not that it's graphic, and all that, but it is one of the most surprising sections of a book I've ever read. Because I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know. This is a Sunday school book, which I love Sunday school. I used to teach Sunday school. I used to go to Sunday school. But you know what the impression is. It's all safe. It's all the right stuff. There's for some people anyway. What's exciting about it for kids, or maybe young teenagers. This is not that. The first 5 chapters are, to me, always just kind of shocking. When I read it for the first time, I couldn't believe that there was a place in the world that this went on. Now again, it's not particularly graphic, but hopefully I'm rousing your interest to the point that you want to see what that is. But it is, in almost a way, to me, shockingly violent. And again, not shocking again in the details, just in the principle that somebody would be willing to do this. Anyway, that's where they chose to go. There's that picture. If you'll turn the page, and this means nothing to you right now, so turn the page from that picture to these 2 charts. So it gradually gets smaller and smaller, or more detailed. On the left-hand side of the page is a more detailed picture of, I guess we're talking about eastern New Guinea. You see there's a line right down the middle. I wish I knew more about New Guinea. At the time of the story, New Guinea was controlled by the Netherlands, the Dutch, the people that live in Holland, those people. Now, how did the Dutch get into New Guinea? That's a long way from the Netherlands. How did the Dutch get there? I mean, why did they own, so to speak, New Guinea? Well, who at one time owned Australia? I use that term loosely, owned. But who was it that,
The British.
Yeah. Do you know where else the British were? You know anything about world history? Yeah.
They're in India.
They're in India. Where else are they? They were in China. You got places like China, India, Australia, and of course they were in the United States. That's why we speak English. But they had probably the largest kingdom in history, the empire rather. Well, during the 1800s, probably 1700s, even further back, I don't know exactly when, these European countries like England and the Netherlands and Spain particularly, they were exploring the entire world and claiming sections of the world for themselves. Did you know the Spanish at one time controlled the Philippines? The Spanish-American War, which was, Teddy Roosevelt charging up San Juan Hill in Cuba, because we won that war, we took control of the Philippines, which is right above Australia, in that same general area. So these European countries were controlling this part of the world. I think a lot of the Chinese hated Europeans because of the British. Did you know, I'm getting off subject, but did you know there was something called the Opium Wars in China? And the British, I think this is the story, they wanted to sell opium. And so in order for them to sell it, they, kind of like modern drug dealers, they got it in there for free so people would get hooked on it and then have to have it. And those are the British. Those are the good guys, they're kind of been our all-time allies. A lot of it was not good, but I don't know much about the Netherlands in New Guinea, but in 1962, they controlled New Guinea. So look on the left-hand side of the page. About halfway down, you see the Sawi villages. So this is the eastern part of New Guinea, and then you got that little area on the southeastern, right? No, southeastern. No, we're talking about western. I'm saying eastern. It's the western end of New Guinea, and so the southwestern part of New Guinea is where this story takes place. And look on the right-hand side. I'm sorry you can't write in your book, but look near the bottom. The Chronicle River, you see that? Find that. That's a major water thoroughfare in the book. That's a major section. The Maro tribe, the Sirimi, the Kadari, all these places, and I'm not going to require you to remember all of this, but there are some of these names that you'll see over and over. Hanem is a village, Maro is a village, Kamar is a village. The people were kind of known by the name of their village. And so these people lived in villages and they hated each other. Don't know why exactly they hated each other, but they were constantly fighting. They glorified violence, and particularly betrayal. So this story starts with the idea that if you killed somebody, that's great, because that's a good thing, to kill somebody, particularly in war, kill an enemy. But if you killed them after you made friends with them, that's even better. So you're going to learn, that's what what is the name of it? I've got to check it out again. That's what the Tui Asane Mon custom is, and that is making friends and then betraying that friend and killing that friend. And by the way, eating the friend after you betrayed and killed him. These people, and you'll get this in some detail, and so the first 5 chapters are really about that custom. So to me, that's kind of useful. I like to know where I am when I'm reading a book. So the part, and there are pictures in here. Look at the beginning of chapter 1. I don't think mine has a page. I think it would be page 17 in my book, but it doesn't really matter. Chapter 1, I have a picture somewhere around there of one of the tree houses. These people lived in tree houses because it was safer from their enemies to live up there than to live down there. Plus, it was safer from the water because they're right on these rivers that could flood. So this is the story of that adventure that this family had, and sharing the gospel with this group of people. So I think you will enjoy it. I think it's we're going to actually read a little bit here in a minute. But I think you have everything you need to know, and if there are things that come to me, I will tell you. So why don't you turn to the first page, and let's just kind of get a sense of what the book is about. We're not going to read much, but at least we can read a little bit to see what's going on. The way the book is organized, the first chapter takes place before the Richardsons go to New Guinea. The first part, not just the first chapter, but the whole first 5 chapters take place before they go to New Guinea. The second part takes place, it starts before they go to New Guinea also. So it starts in Canada, and it takes you from where you are, where they were in Canada, to going to New Guinea and sharing the gospel. And then the last part is really the height of the book. It's not a novel, because it's not fiction. Novels are always fiction. This book is nonfiction. So at the end of the book, you get what happens when they change, when they get to the gospel, and when they, after the gospel. I think the bottom line is if we are Christians, we should be acting different from other people. If you're a Christian and you act and do exactly the way other people do, there's probably something wrong there, because we talked about it yesterday. We don't live by bread alone. We don't live by the world. We live by it from every word. And the Word of God is going to require us to act differently. And one of my favorite ideas in the book is how these people change. Like, how is their life different? How is it better after the gospel comes in? And it is. So that when you get there, just notice how bad they are, and then notice how they change. If they don't change, then the gospel really hasn't gotten there. So I'll start. We'll just read a little bit here to give you kind of a sense of what you're going to get. And then if we have a few minutes, I'll introduce the next book, which is going to take a few days. We're not going to do much in the class, about once a week. So if you turn there, remember you cannot write in it, but you can, I don't know, you can take notes in it. So Davis, you all right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to hurt your eyes.
I know.
Or Zach. I hate it when students hurt their eyesight, but I don't know how that works. But
I was looking at the book.
yeah, I know that's going to hurt your eyes.
I know.
You're down like this. I think I'll become an eye doctor after eye doctor. Well, yeah, because I've seen so much. All right, Ambassador to Hanan. One of the things I have trouble with myself is remembering which tribe people are in, and that's not the most important thing, but it is important. So from the beginning, the character you're going to look at for the first 5 chapters is this guy named Yae, Y-A-E. He is the focus of the first 5 chapters. As the sun rose, Yae gazed down through the 4 slats of his Morrow Village treehouse at the dark surface of the Cronquel River 40 feet below. Remember, this takes place before the Richardsons go to New Guinea. His calm black eyes studied the slow drift of leaves on the waveless surface. The leaves were drifting downstream, but at a decreasing rate, evidence that the rising time of the Arafura Sea, 25 miles to the west, was beginning to stay the seaward crawl of the Cronquel. So they're living off the Cronquel River that empties into the Arafura Sea, which is part of the Pacific Ocean. Soon the tide would reverse the river's current completely. For a few hours, it would force the black, algae-stained Cronquel back into the immense womb of the South New Guinea swamp, which had spawned it. Yae had been waiting for this moment to begin his journey upstream, aided by the current. Yae's wife, Kartap, sat cross-legged by the central cooking place inside the treehouse. Her youngest child, still unnamed. One of the things I'm asking you to here too is notice the culture of these people, what they eat, where they live, how they raise their children, what they believe, and so forth. Her youngest child, still unnamed, lay asleep on her lap, cradled in the tresses of her heavy grass skirt. Leaning over the baby, Kartap sprinkled water from a bamboo cruse into the white sago flour scattered on the bark pallet before her. Slowly she kneaded the flour and water into a paste, while smoke from the smoldering fire bothered her eyes. I'm going to ask you to remember sago, S-A-G-O. It is like their go-to food. they eat it all the time. When I was a kid growing up in South Carolina, my grandmother fixed rice for every meal, except for breakfast. We'd have rice for lunch, we'd have rice for supper, we'd have rice for Sunday dinner, Saturday night dinner. Every dinner had rice. I don't know if you have, like, potatoes are probably that for our culture. Sago was that for them. They ate it, they didn't eat much, but they ate it. This is what they just kind of always would eat. They did the other thing. Her older offspring, 2-year-old Miri, was playing contentedly beside her on a woven mat. His only toy was a human skull. If you could write in it, I'd have highlighted that. He's playing with a human skull, whose sad eye holes gaped vacuously at the smoked blackened ceiling as it rolled about. Already polished to a bright ochre sheen by years of fine handling, the skull was a memento of Ye's long dead father, and also as a fetish to ward off evil spirits. But to little Miri, it was only a shiny toy. Two things there that you need to note is the skull of their grandfather is what they're playing with. Secondly, it's a fetish to ward off, in other words, a magical object. It's like what do you call it, a rabbit's foot, or the lucky jersey you wear to the game. So they believe in evil spirits. That tells you already these people that are living beyond the Middle Ages. I mean, they're way back. Their technology goes back thousands of years. But they do have religion. They have a religion. Everybody's got a religion. Some people's religion is no religion, and they believe in it like it is a religion. But these people are very religious. Ye spoke to Kotap without turning to her, and he says that, whatever that means. The tide is about to turn. Cook my sago at once. Does that tell you anything about the way families are put together? Just that one statement, the way he talks to his wife. He says, cook my sago at once. What does that tell you about perhaps the way this culture treats women? Yeah.
Or like the servants.
Yeah, and that'll be the case. That's very, very appropriate statement because it tells you how they treat women. Do you think that might change when the gospel gets there? Do you think it should change? Do you think being a Christian, guys, would dictate to you, model to you how to treat women? Because I think we're having issues in this country today about that issue, about how men treat women. And Christianity, the Bible tells us how we should treat each other, men and women, women and men, and so forth. Ye spoke to Kotap without turning her head. I just said that. Her deft black fingers quickly worked the damp sago paste into a long, slender shape, wrapped it in yoham leaves, and laid it among the hot coals. Ye, meanwhile, donned his ornaments in preparation for the journey. He covered his naked loins with the kind of narrow grass skirt which, in the Sawi tribe, could only be worn by men who had slain an enemy in battle. Ye had slain 5. He had taken heads from 3 of his victims, and this was indicated by the 3 bracelets of gleaming wild boar tusks which hung around his left elbow. What does that tell you about the Sawi culture? The man had killed 5 other men in battle. And how do they celebrate that? Well, there's certain things they can wear. There's certain things they can hang around their necks, like bracelets around their wrists. So if you are a warrior, all these men are warriors, that sort of dictates to them what they wear. His prowess in hunting was displayed next by a sudafed, a 6-foot-long necklace of animal teeth, which he draped in 2 loops around his neck. Each wild pig, crocodile, dog, or marsupial he had killed had contributed 1 tooth to the necklace. Bands of finely woven rattan also were fitted tightly above and below the muscles of each arm, just below his knees. Into the pierced septum of his nose, he proudly inserted a 6-inch hollow bone carved from the thigh bone of a pig and sharpened to a point on each end. So even their clothes represent their beliefs in, celebrating war and celebrating victory. If he had been journeying to attend an all-night dance, I highlighted that. That's another aspect of their culture. There were other ornaments he could have worn as well. A flame-colored bird of paradise plume, a headband of gold and brown marsupial fur, a splay of white cockatoo feathers, as well as white and red body paint made from the powdered seashells and red earth. But Ye's mission was purely diplomatic and not festive, so he was content simply to adorn himself with the white and gold of polished bone and braided rattan. So we already have kind of a mystery. Where is he going? Why is he dressed the way he is? What do you mean diplomatic mission? Kaltap used a pair of tongs to remove the sago loaf from the coals, brushed off the charred leaves, and handed the steaming swamp bread to her husband. Ye ate half and placed half in his small sago bag made of woven fibers, along with a chunk of pork which Kaltap had earlier smoked over the fire. Hanging the bag from his shoulder, he drew his 6-foot-long bow made of black palm wood down from the overhead weapon rack. One end of the bow was tipped with a needle-sharp cassowary talon, so it could be used as a spear in close combat. Ye also selected a handful of sharply barbed bamboo-shafted arrows. Grasping with bow and arrows in one hand, he took lastly his paddle, which along with his war shield, drum, stone axe, spear, canoe, and bow, completed the main hierarchy of his earthly possessions. Again, that tells you a lot about their culture. It's geared toward war. It's geared toward hunting, but also to war. By the way, the paddles, I think, could be used as weapons. I think they were sharp on one end. The bow itself could be used as a weapon, not just as a vehicle for the arrow, but itself, it could be sharpened. Jude, would you pick up there? We're not going to read too much more, but I'll just give you an idea.
What did you pick up again?
The paddle was a striking example. I guess I need to tell you what page we're on. 19.
Oh, I see it. I lost my phone for a second. The paddle was a striking example of Saya artistry, fashioned from a single 9-foot column of dark red ironwood. It featured a wide rectangular blade engraved with exotic designs, and at the upper end of its shaft a bulging carved ancestral figure. Above the ancestral figure, the characteristic wooden barbs and cassowary talon wood that Ye's paddle, like his bow, could also double as a spear.
So that's just something to note. The bow had a double purpose. The paddle had a double purpose. Again, war, defense is extremely important to these people. You keep reading.
Ye stepped out onto the porch of the treehouse. Around him, the 6 other treehouses of more village sheathed in oil. The morning's golden haze. Awkward, compact, love-shaped. They're all about 40 feet in length and range from 30 to 50 feet in height above the ground. Soaring pleasures hanging by the brush on the long, spindly tree limbs. In addition, there are 4 longhouses at elevations of less than 20 feet.
Okay, one of the things I'm asking you here, if you're noticing the questions, is to describe their living conditions. So they have these tree houses and they have these long houses. Long houses are more communal. They have like meetings there and things. The tree houses, and they are, I don't know if they're on the ground or up in the air, but the tree houses are, 30, 40 feet in the air. That's like 3 or 4 at least stories like, we're 2 stories, so it would be at least 20 or 30 feet. So they're at least this tall, if not taller. Yeah.
So, I don't know if you said this, but did you say we have to define the vocabulary?
Yeah, that's the only vocabulary in the whole thing, so these are just words that I've noticed in this first chapter.
What do you do with the vocabulary? Do you have to like find a definition?
What's that?
Do you have to find like the definition?
Yeah, just define. So when I check the definition, when I check these, you can also do that. So, Lauren, do you mind reading, picking up there, not all Sully families? There you go.
Not all Sully families have incentive to build tree houses, choosing to leave themselves more vulnerable to surprise attack than where the tree house dwellers who can an easy view of all their surroundings. In a tall tree house, women and children can cower in the relative safety while their husbands, fathers, or brothers rain arrows down upon an encroaching enemy, or even descend into the mountain and face the enemy in spear blade.
You can just read a little bit more.
Today began his disposition of the descent of the long vine passing ladder. Kate raised her voice in complaint. Why do you go so often to visit Haman? Doesn't your skin feel uneasy going there? Jay continued his descent. If I had no friends where I wouldn't go, was his only reply. The ladder slowed back under the treehouse for shelter from tropical downpours and for shade. We descended the entire length without once mentioning clinging to the ladder for support, balancing perfectly on each precarious rung.
Yeah, Gracie, I know you just got here. Do you mind reading there? Near the foot?
Near the foot of the ladder, his young brother, Sayer, sat kind of while trembling with a dull chill, trying in vain to keep enough warmth from the living sun, which now glared into the village, causing steam to rise from dew-wet foliage. Gaines spoke comfortingly to him, but Stephen could hardly answer his teeth chattered in sympathy. A few yards down to his cousin, Marcy's 3 wives were loading their Lego cutting instruments into new for a trip to the jungle. They told us, I'm going to Canaan. I'll return just before dark. I am going to invite my friends here to come to our Disney dance when the new year appears.
I just made a note that, again, these are a couple of things you probably need to know. Ye is from the Morrow village. And I don't know if it's fair to say that's a tribe. I don't know exactly how the thing breaks down, but at least it's their village. So they're known by their village. He's going to the Hanum village. He's trying to make friends with them, and he wants to invite them to a dance. That's part of their culture. This is all politics, really. He's got a plan. Mallory, would you read to the line at the bottom?
Watsy wished him well in his mission, and he stepped under the stern tent for those to sleep, dug out and pushed out into the channel. His 3 wives stood well forward in a 30-foot craft, 2 of them with babies secured to their backs and small carrying bags fastened to their hips. The 3 wives raised their paddles simultaneously and plied downstream toward the mouth of the small tributary, which would lead them back into the Sayers. A reserve of hot coals trailed straight from the little bed of the flame near Watsy's feet. With these they would later kindle a fire to cook their afternoon meat from the fresh bacon they would harvest from the Ye led his bow and arrows in his canoe in his bark. With a strong, deliberate stroke, he aimed the needle-nosed craft upstream, just as the leaves on the surface came to a full stop in their sea return. By the time he vanished around in a distant bend of the river, the leaves were moving upstream again.
Cut out.
Kotat watched her husband vanish, a frown of concern on her smoke-darkened face. Then the baby on her lap began to stir and cry. She held the child to her breast and gave suck, wishing that
couple other things there that we just noticed. The brother has 3 wives. You'll find out later that the limit is there's a limit. I think it's 5 wives. Like, you're really something if you have 5 wives. So they are polygamous. They're also polytheists. You know, they believe in multiple gods. I don't know that they even think of them as gods, but as spirits. And you also notice that we know now why he's going down to the to this Hanam village, because he wants to form an alliance. And you'll have to read a little more to figure out why. And I guess we will, David. Yeah.
Are these questions in order?
I don't know. You'll have to find out. Pretty much, I think. Exact why don't you pick up so if you can read. Hadn't been long since. I know we hadn't read in a while, so.
A voice of screaming cockatoos took flight as Yates' canoe suddenly appeared from under the screening foliage at the river's edge, still bearing upstream. Crocodile dozing on the tip of a sunken log awoke at their shrieking, gaped open mouthed at Ye, and then belly flopped into the water, waving his massive tail up to a vertical position as he plunged into the depths. Ye glided onto the next bend and rounded it, reflecting once more on the series of events which had established him as Marius' only ambassador to the upstream Saudi village called Canaan. 7 months earlier, Ye had unexpectedly encountered a party of 5 men from Canaan while he was hunting wild geese near the source of the Ain
Tributary.
Ye had immediately crouched in his canoe and reached for his bow. The tallest of the 5 strangers had quickly greeted him.
Kanahari.
Kanahari, don't take your bow. I know you, your name is Ye, and I'm related to you, said the tall stranger. Ye raised his bow anyway, but did not fit an arrow to his string. Instead, he asked, what is your name? My name is Cowan. I am the youngest son of your mother's stepmother. Why have you come to the Ain River? No doubt even your friends are dying. Ye challenged. Not so, said Cowan. This morning I wanted a wild pig, and we have followed its trail of blood this fall. See, there's a fresh blood mark on the grass. And here are the tracks where the pig floundered in the mud not long ago. Come, let me embrace you and your relatives. Ye had heard his mother speak of Cowan, but still he hesitated. Cowan then took a small piece of sharp bamboo from his satchel, cut off a lock of his stringy black hair, wrapped it in a leaf, and offered it to Ye.
Just one more.
Reassured by this genuinely accepted token of sincerity, Ye paddled closer, took the gift from Cowan, and dropped into his satchel. By this offering, Cowan had demonstrated that he desired more than just a passing acquaintance with Ye. The 2 men embraced each other while Cowan's 4 companions voiced their approval, and it was that Cowan made his proposal.
Okay, that's probably a good place to stop. Gives you a taste of what's going on. Now, did you pick up anything on his, when he sees these men? Now, he's going back in time to when he met the people of the Hanam tribe, and this is that moment. Did you notice how he relates to them? Anybody notice? He's afraid of them. He as soon as he sees them, he gets his weapon. So these people do not like each other. They're really part of the same people. In fact, he's related. He's a cousin of this guy, and yet they it's almost like gangs. You know, I mean, street gangs and things. They have this antipathy toward each other and fear. And so what Ye is trying to do is become an ally to these people, and you'll find out why. There's some advantages to be an ally. So you have a week to finish this section. Again, when we come tomorrow, remember your vocabulary is due, and we'll take care of that. And then I will give you the PowerPoint of the next book. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you my vocabulary.
If you want to show it, give me a Boo.